You're listening to the Quint's podcast.
Since 18th April, when the oxygen supply crisis began in Delhi, hospitals have been sending out SOS calls on a daily basis, with many reporting less than 24 hours of oxygen left. 3 weeks later, on 11th May, the crisis still exists. The Corona Dashboard, a centralized platform created by the Delhi Aam Aadmi Party government just a week ago, lists out 201 central government, Delhi government, and private hospitals. As of 5 pm on 11th May, less than one-third of these hospitals had more than 1 day of oxygen supply in stock. The rest are staring at just hours of oxygen supply, which is dwindling by the minute. Even though the highest legal body in the land, the Supreme Court, on 7th May directed the centre to supply the required 700 metric tons of medical oxygen to Delhi every day till further orders, the capital continues to run dry and struggle as supply from the centre is inconsistent. And the requirement has now risen to 976 tons per day, according to the Delhi government. Despite orders from the Supreme Court and the Delhi High Court on supplying the required medical oxygen, why is our capital still gasping for breath? When will the oxygen shortage end? And what are the bottlenecks in the oxygen procuring process? To gain some clarity on these pertinent questions, for today's episode, we spoke with AAP MLA Raghav Chadda, who lists out a daily oxygen bulletin for the UT. You're tuned in to The Big Story, the podcast where we dissect the headline-making news for you, and I'm your host, Himmat. So let's straight away go to the main question. Why is Delhi still facing a shortage of oxygen? Where is the bottleneck? According to the Delhi government, it continues to face shortages due to inconsistent supply and allocation of medical oxygen from the central government, while the centre blames AAP for black marketing and inefficient management of oxygen. Although while Delhi and the centre are engaged in a blame game, it is the citizens who are paying for the oxygen crisis. But where does it end? The Quint got in touch with AAP MLA Raghav Chadda, who has been sending out daily updates on the requirements for oxygen and SOS calls from hospitals. And he says that Delhi has been facing problems due to centre's apathy towards the NCT bill.
Look, first of all, the problem is twofold. One is the oxygen, the quantity of oxygen, and second is the logistics of oxygen. Now, as far as the quantity is concerned, every state has been asked to, as per the formula given by the central government, ascertain its demand. The demand is essentially calculated by calculating the number of ICU beds and non-ICU beds, and you multiply each ICU bed with a particular level of oxygen that is required for a patient. And the same you do for the non-ICU bed, you add those two figures and arrive at the overall demand for the state of liquid medical oxygen. Now, every state had put forward this demand before the central government. 18 states actually did. And out of those 18 states, 17 states got exactly as much oxygen as they had demanded for, and in some cases even more than what they had demanded for. The only state that did not get as much as it demanded for, in fact not even 50% of what our demand was, is the state of Delhi, which is most unfortunate. Now, these are times of pandemic. I don't wish to play politics. I don't wish to name political parties or political leaders, but what it certainly appears is that this has been probably due to the centre's apathy towards Delhi, their inconsiderate attitude. And we have from day one been, we've been praying before the centre to be more charitable and generous when they consider the oxygen demand of Delhi. This demand that we have been putting forward before them, which is 976 metric ton of oxygen per day. This is not a weekly or a monthly demand. Per day, we require 976 metric ton of oxygen. This demand has been calculated on the basis of the formula given by the central government. It's not that we are exaggerating or we are overestimating our oxygen demand, etc. This is as per the central government's own formula. So there is no scope for over-reporting or overestimation, etc. Second problem is of logistics. Now, oxygen is a commodity that can't be plied in normal vehicles, in normal tanks, in normal trucks, in normal cars, etc. This is a specialized chemical and it can only be transported from place A to place B in a cryogenic tanker. Now, cryogenic tankers are not available in Delhi because Delhi is not an industry state. We also do not have a steel plant or an oxygen producing facility in Delhi. This is what the High Court also said, that simply because Delhi is not an industry state, they neither have cryogenic tankers nor do they have steel furnaces as well as oxygen plants. So therefore, it is incumbent on the central government to provide both the oxygen as well as the cryogenic tankers to ply oxygen. Now, the center, unfortunately, as far as oxygen is concerned, has allocated 590 metric ton on paper to us, but what we've been receiving for the last few days is much less than that, except with one or two exceptions. And as far as cryogenic tankers is concerned, the allocation of cryogenic tankers has not been made. And this has been our request to them, that just how you've allocated oxygen, you must also allocate cryogenic tankers to each state. Because in the absence of a cryogenic tanker, the provision of oxygen is of no meaning at all. You can't ferry, you can't fly the oxygen from place A to place B. So these two are essentially the problems. For both these two problems, the union government had filed an affidavit in the Supreme Court in which they said, number one, there is no shortage of liquid medical oxygen in the country. Currently, we are manufacturing 8,500 metric ton of oxygen across the country. If need be, we can increase this from 8,500 metric ton to 22,500 metric ton. It is roughly 1.5 times the oxygen that we're producing currently. So therefore, there is no dearth of oxygen in the country. Number two, as far as the tankers are concerned, the central government said that we have 1,631 tankers. Now, 1,631 tankers can easily ply 22, 23, 24,000 metric ton of oxygen. Therefore, there is no shortage of cryogenic tankers also.
As Mr. Chadda said, it is true that unlike some of our neighboring states, Delhi is not an industrial state and does not have any oxygen plants of its own, thus relies on Haryana and Uttar Pradesh for medical oxygen. But the question is, what stopped the Delhi government from setting up its own oxygen plants in the last 1 year in preparation for a future wave and prepare in advance for a second wave like Maharashtra did? And it's not just oxygen plants that Delhi government has not constructed. According to an RTI application filed in 2019 by RTI activist Tejpal Singh, no new hospitals have been commissioned under Delhi government during the period from April 2015 to March 2019. So, what stopped the government from tending to the glaring reality that it was in? Mr. Chadda weighs in.
Hindsight is always 2020. So therefore, this question itself is something that I think every government, every administration must sort of think about, introspect, etc. As far as oxygen plants are concerned, Prime Minister Cares Fund was allotted.
Yes, for the 162
activity.
plants, but nothing stopped the Delhi government from allotting funds for its own oxygen plants.
Correct. So that 162 plants never met, they never saw the light of the day, simply because the contractor, which the central government had hired, ran away with all the money. In fact, it's come out to be a big scam now, and which needs a thorough investigation. However, of course, I think every government and administration is wiser now. And every government is, at least my government has started importing plants from France. We are in the process of setting up big PSA plants, etc. And we will certainly ensure that this oxygen crisis is very soon becomes a thing of the past.
A lack of communication also seems to play a big role in this crisis. In the initial days of the crisis, the lack of communication between these neighbors was very evident, as oxygen tankers from both the states were restricted at the borders by either the state police or government officials. A Gautam Budh Nagar district magistrate on 22nd April took it a step ahead, posting 2 senior police officers round the clock at an oxygen supply factory to check the movement of oxygen cylinders. And only after that, the centre had to step in and put out an advisory for free movement of medical oxygen between states. Which prompts the following question: why did a communication gap exist in such an emergency? Mr. Chadda weighs in.
नहीं, देखिए, ये इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं है कि अभी शुरुआती दिनों में ये देखा गया कि किसी एक राज्य ने हमारे राज्य में जो ऑक्सीजन आनी थी उसे रोक लिया और पहले अपने राज्य की पूर्ति करने की कोशिश करी, और उसकी वजह से दिल्ली को काफी सहना भी पड़ा, रुकावट भी आई। और हमने ये कहा कि इस समय आप अ, इस हमारे देश की जनता को यूपी, हरियाणा, पंजाब, राजस्थान, दिल्ली में बांट नहीं सकते। हम सब भारतीय हैं।
We are constantly urging everyone to not differentiate among Indians on the basis of state borders. We had seen some states stopping supply tankers en route to Delhi at their borders to cater to the demands of their own people first.
जो ठीक नहीं है। आप अगर एक कोई राज्य सरकार दूसरी राज्य में जा रही ऑक्सीजन की टैंक को रोक लेती है, हम कोशिश करते हैं, हम केंद्र सरकार को फोन करते हैं, केंद्र सरकार के अधिकारियों को, मंत्रियों को, सबको फोन करते हैं, कोशिश करते हैं कि वो हस्तक्षेप करें। उन राज्यों के मुख्यमंत्रियों से भी बात करते हैं, जैसे कि मुख्यमंत्री जी ने, दिल्ली के मुख्यमंत्री अरविंद केजरीवाल जी ने एमएल खट्टर साहब जो हरियाणा के मुख्यमंत्री हैं उनसे बात करी, योगी आदित्यनाथ से बात करी, हर मुख्यमंत्री से बात करके उन्हें बताया कि आप लोगों ने हमारा टैंक रोका हुआ है, उसे छोड़ दीजिए, क्यों रोका हुआ है, सारी बात करी। यहाँ तक कि प्रधानमंत्री जी की बैठक में भी अरविंद केजरीवाल जी ने ये बात कही थी कि अगर प्रधानमंत्री जी खुद इसमें हस्तक्षेप करके एक फोन कर दें उस मुख्यमंत्री को कि खबरदार जो तुमने दिल्ली आने वाला टैंकर रोका कभी भी, तो मजाल है किसी मुख्यमंत्री की जो रोक दे।
Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal had requested Prime Minister Narendra Modi during the meeting to issue strict warning to all chief ministers to not to stop tankers meant for bringing oxygen towards Delhi. Had the Prime Minister made a call to these chief ministers, they would never have dared to stop Delhi supply tankers again.
The current reality that India is witnessing is this, that citizens have resorted to social media to appeal and amplify requirements for COVID medicines like remdesivir, blood and plasma donors, and especially medical oxygen. And unfortunately, hospitals also succumb to grabbing the local government's attention in the same way. While hospitals across Delhi started sending SOSs to the AAP government from 18th April, it was only on 22nd April that the administration set up a helpline number to address these calls. However, citizens are still left to their own means for finding this life-saving oxygen and medicines, and the majority of Delhiites are now managing their individual demands through crowdsourcing on social media and by word of mouth. The government has also not started any public interest advertisements for informing people about the medical resources and oxygen filler plants available in the city. So, 3 weeks since the crisis began, has the situation improved? Mr. Chadda weighs in.
देखिए, हमारी एक हेल्पलाइन है, एक हमारा वॉर रूम है जिसके अंदर बहुत ही आला अधिकारी बैठते हैं, बहुत ही योग्य, बहुत ही कॉम्पिटेंट, बहुत अनुभवी आईएएस ऑफिसर्स बैठते हैं, और वो आईएएस ऑफिसर्स मिलकर ये पूरा वॉर रूम चलाते हैं। उसके अंदर हमें लगातार कॉल्स आती हैं, अस्पतालों से फोन आते हैं, हमें सोशल मीडिया के जरिए भी पता लगता है कि यहाँ पे ऑक्सीजन कम हो गई, यहाँ पे कम हो गई, यहाँ दिक्कत है, वहां दिक्कत है। हम हर एसओएस कॉल को केटर करते हैं, कहीं सिलेंडर भेजते हैं, कहीं लिक्विड मेडिकल ऑक्सीजन का ट्रक भेजते हैं, कहीं उसके सप्लायर के साथ उसका जो एक सप्लाई चेन एस्टैब्लिश था उसमें परेशानी आती है तो उसको ठीक कराते हैं। तो हर प्रकार से एसओएस को एड्रेस किया जाता है, और मैं रोजाना जब ये ऑक्सीजन बुलेटिन जारी करता हूँ तो कितनी एसओएस कॉल्स आई, कितनी एसओएस कॉल्स को एड्रेस किया गया, वो सारी जानकारी भी मैं उसके साथ जारी करता हूँ। और आप देखेंगे कि जैसे जैसे ऑक्सीजन की सप्लाई दिल्ली में बढ़ती है, केंद्र सरकार मेहरबान होकर ज्यादा ऑक्सीजन देता है, उतनी कम एसओएस आती हैं।
We have a helpline, a war room, which is being handled by several efficient and experienced IAS officers. In that war room, we receive and address SOS calls from hospitals. We also track social media for urgent needs in different hospitals. We cater to each and every SOS call. In the oxygen bulletin that I issue every day, I also put forward the number of SOS calls we have received and addressed. You will notice as oxygen supply is increased, the number of SOS calls received will reduce.
If you like listening to this episode, please subscribe to The Big Story for episodic updates. We're available on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, JioSaavn, and most of the other popular podcast streaming platforms. For other podcasts, please log on to the Quint website, and for any feedback, please shoot an email to podcast@thequint.com.
Thanks for listening. Log on to the Quint's website and check out our other podcasts.